And if we have tech companies using the powers of monopoly to censor political speech, I think that raises real antitrust issues. Most users of Facebook or Twitter or Google, when they use those services, they don't envision they're participating in a biased forum. They believe that when they speak, the people who've chosen to follow them will hear what they say. There are distressing pieces of evidence that suggest that's not the case. Now, I will note, much of the argument in this topic is anecdotal because we have no data. There is no transparency. Nobody knows how many speakers Twitter is blocking, how many speakers Facebook is blocking. Nobody knows what the raw data is in terms of bias. So one of the first things that this hearing seeks to accomplish is simply move us towards transparency.
There are many areas where the Senate should be conducting oversight of the tech industry. Baseless allegations of anti-conservative bias is not one of them. The alt-right continues to use Twitter to organize and spread hate, discussing claims of anti-conservative bias that have been disproven time and again. One of our witnesses, Professor Francesca Tripodi, studies partisanship on social media and finds that conservative perspectives abound on Facebook, Google, and Twitter. She describes claims of anti-conservative bias as nothing more than a mix of anecdotal evidence, which the chairman has acknowledged, and a failure to understand the company's algorithms and content moderation practices. Professor Tripodi's conclusions are consistent with those of media watchdog, Media Matters, and others that anti-conservative bias simply does not exist. And the strategy has worked. Research shows that major news outlets have overcompensated for their perceived liberal bias by treating Democrats more harshly than Republicans. If conservatives have had their content removed, maybe they should look at the content that they're posting. Maybe they shouldn't post lies about Planned Parenthood selling baby body parts. Maybe they shouldn't inflame religious tensions by misrepresenting the tenets of one of the world's major religions. I hope that going forward, this subcommittee will focus on the real issues facing America, like hate speech, like voter suppression, like looking into the emoluments clause. That's what I'd like this committee to pursue, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
When I voiced my concerns about infringements on our freedom of speech, a senior Google search engineer called me a terrorist.
But there is a problem. There is rather blatant bias in one direction politically. Not lost on any of us that this cuts overwhelmingly one direction and not the other. That doesn't mean we can't identify aberrational examples, examples of where it cuts the other direction. But I don't hear either one of you disputing or making any attempt to refute the idea that we do have a political bias issue here. That doesn't mean necessarily that it's the government's issue to resolve. It doesn't mean that we own your companies and can tell you what to do. But insofar as you would have your users suggest and believe that you are somehow a politically neutral forum, that's laughable. No one assumes that to be true, and I don't hear you saying that. And it's insofar as you're suggesting that this doesn't produce very different outcomes on the right from the outcomes that are achieved on the left. That is laughable.
I will note, by the way, both of y'all press back on saying you don't know the political leanings of your employees. The Facebook CEO, Mr. Zuckerberg, when he testified here, in his own words, characterized Silicon Valley as, quote, an extremely left-leaning place. And so I think anyone is denying reality to suggest otherwise.
Compared to other parts of the country, Silicon Valley may not be all that left-leaning.